Without the TVA, all of this, everything, is gone. This is what Loki told Sylvie near the end of Loki Season 2, Episode 2. And this tells us a lot about where Loki's head is at. He also says this: if what He Who Remains said is true, the TVA is the only defense. This is big because we can clearly see here that Loki agrees that the TVA should exist, and it is in fact an entity for good, not bad. He believes what He Who Remains said is true. And I actually think that after all of this is said and done, Loki Season 2, Deadpool 3, Avengers Secret Wars, when all of it is said and done, Loki could actually become He Who Remains. No, I am not saying he is a variant of Kang, but He Who Remains can be considered a title, the last person at the end of time. And I think Loki is realizing throughout the course of Loki Season 2 that there does have to be somebody there monitoring everything to make sure the multiverse doesn't get destroyed. And I think he's going to take that upon himself and possibly Sylvie as well. Now, this decision is what Loki and Sylvie are going to be fighting about throughout the course of Loki Season 2. Clearly, Loki thinks that the TVA is good, and Sylvie thinks that the TVA is bad. Both of them want free will for the entire multiverse. However, Loki understands that free will comes with a cost, and this is basically what He Who Remains was saying. He Who Remains essentially gave Loki and Sylvie the choice to become him. And as Loki stated several times in Season 2, Episode 1, he just wanted time to think in that moment, which is why he tried to stop Sylvie from killing him. Because his biggest concern was, what if he's right? What if He Who Remains was indeed telling the truth, and that if they killed him, bigger, badder people would come, and essentially the entire multiverse, the reality that he knows and everyone knows, will be destroyed. And it'll be the end, essentially, of existence. This is further backed up by a scene that we've seen in trailers, but not in the episodes yet. And the scene is where we hear Sylvie tell Loki, "We're playing God." And that's when Loki says, "We are gods." I mentioned this in a previous video, but this could actually be Loki's glorious purpose, both Loki and Sylvie, because Sylvie is a Loki. Could their glorious purpose be to rule the TVA? I think this is going to play out not only over Loki Season 2, but also throughout the course of Deadpool 3 and Avengers Secret Wars, because I do believe Loki thinks that the TVA is a good and necessary thing and needs to continue in order to preserve the multiverse. However, we do also basically know that in Avengers Kang Dynasty, the Avengers are going to lose, and the multiverse is indeed going to collapse. In fact, we know that's going to happen before in Deadpool 3, and we know that the TVA is going to play a big part in Deadpool 3 and probably Loki. Now, I'm sure Loki trusts Mobius to do the right thing and handle the TVA, but we don't know what Mobius's ending is going to be in Loki Season 2. Perhaps he goes somewhere on a timeline and gets his jet ski finally. Plus, there's always the fact that Mobius might not want to be the person in charge of the TVA and would probably think that Loki is the most fitted. After all, he is a god. And at this point in time, and by the end of Loki Season 2, he will have had the most knowledge about He Who Remains and what he has done. And we assume he's going to interact with at least a few different variants of He Who Remains throughout Loki Season 2. So he'll have somewhat the knowledge that He Who Remains had to basically be able to run the TVA. And the question that many fans are asking right now is, will Loki actually want to do this? And I believe yes. Again, I think that he might think it's his glorious purpose. This isn't just trying to take over New York or Earth for bad reasons, or as he says in Episode 2, because he was actually mad at his brother and father. Love that level of vulnerability. But this is a completely different cause. This is for good. This is Loki becoming the hero, stepping away from the arc of the villain. This would be the ultimate character development, from Loki being a villain in the first Thor movie, wanting to rule over Asgard, to wanting to take over New York and Earth, to wanting to rule the TVA for villainous reasons, and now wanting to rule the TVA to actually save everybody in the multiverse. It's incredible growth and something I would love to see. However, there is going to be one thing, I believe, that stands in the way of him doing this, and that is Sylvie. And the reason that she is actually going to stand in the way of Loki instead of him just brushing her off and stating, well, agree to disagree, is because he loves her. We haven't seen it on screen yet, but executive producer Kevin Wright has stated that they are going to explore even further the relationship between Sylvie and Loki romantically. So why would she stop him? We'll talk about that in just a bit, but first, big thank you to Fume for sponsoring this video. Fume is a game changer for a lot of people in turning bad habits into good habits. A lot of people struggle with these bad habits, but Fume looks at these in a different way. Not everything in the habit is wrong. So instead of a drastic, uncomfortable change, why not just remove the bad from your habit? And that's exactly what Fume does. They're innovative and they're award-winning and they're a flavored air device. That's all it is. It's flavored air. So it has none of the bad things and the bad habit in it. Instead of vapor, it uses flavored air. Instead of electronics, Fume is completely natural. And instead of harmful chemicals, Fume uses delicious flavors. I had actually heard really great things about Fume from my friends who were struggling with some bad habits. They actually raved about it and how it helped them, which is why I agreed to partner with them. And they sent me some samples and they honestly are super refreshing and taste very flavorful and good. And it comes in beautiful real wood. And it's honestly really fun to just sit there and kind of fidget with if you're someone who likes to fidget like I do. And I know stopping is something we all put off because it's hard, but with Fume, it's easy. And they have served over 150,000 customers and have thousands of success stories. And that could be you if you pick up a journey pack today. Head over to tryfume.com and use code COSMIC to save 10% off when you get the journey pack today. That's tryfum.com and use code COSMIC to save an additional 10% off your order today. Sylvie is going to be the biggest problem for Loki because right now, Loki is severely suffering from heartache. And Sylvie, of course, caused that. And you can really tell by Tom Hiddleston's amazing acting in Loki episode 2. He's messed up, but he knows that the multiverse is at stake right now. But Sylvie doesn't care about the TVA, and she even states that if she sees another variant of He Who Remains, she's just gonna kill him. Loki even stated, "So what, you just give people free will and then bounce?" And she said, "Yeah, you're welcome." But we know that Sylvie is gonna come back, and we know that Victor Timely is going to come into the picture, and Sylvie is most likely going to try to kill him. We also know that Renslayer is going to be coming back as well. Her and Miss Minutes are going to be two of the villains of the show, and that's really not gonna help Sylvie think the TVA is good because they're probably going to try to take over the TVA themselves. And her very last words to Loki in the end of episode 2 was, "The TVA is broken and it's rotten." But here's the thing, Loki understands that it's broken and he wants to fix it in a way that can give people free will, but also keeps away the boogeyman, He Who Remains, Kang the Conqueror, etc. He believes that he can do this as the ruler of the TVA, but Sylvie's going to have a problem with this because she did at the end of the first season where she said, "I'm a fool, I should have known all along, you just wanted to be in charge of the TVA, you wanted the power, the control." So Sylvie might get in the way of Loki, in which we're probably going to have a battle between the two of them. But she could also come around because Loki could make some pretty compelling arguments. Plus, if Sylvie is involved in the control of the TVA, she could also make sure herself that people's free will does actually exist and is given to them, but at the same time, she can kill all the evil Kang variants she wants. It's kind of a win-win for Sylvie. So if they both agreed that the TVA was the only way to keep people safe, the two of them could rule it together, essentially becoming He Who Remains, like he said was kind of the only option before. There were only two options. They take his place, literally, as He Who Remains, as the last two people at the end of time, riding time for people, or his evil variants come and destroy the multiverse. There were only two options, and perhaps that remains true today. Here's the only thing though. Like I said, we know that the multiverse is basically going to collapse, and we've been hearing about a MCU soft reboot. So what happens then? Well, again, in Deadpool 3, we've heard the TVA is going to start to gather a bunch of different heroes from a bunch of different universes and put them all in one universe. From what we know, they're doing this to save the heroes. Save the heroes so that they can actually fight for the multiverse in an attempt to save it and hopefully after restore it. The problem is though, we've seen a lot of the TVA and we've never seen them restore any timeline or universe. So we're more than likely going to move forward in the MCU after Secret Wars in a completely new universe where the multiverse still does exist. So the TVA will still be necessary and somebody's going to have to run it. And the further we go into Loki season 2, the more I believe that this truly is Loki and possibly Sylvie's glorious purpose. But let us know what you think about this in the comments down below. Do you think Loki becomes He Who Remains? And if so, do you think Sylvie will join him? Let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the Loki theories and, of course, the latest MCU news. Also, if you like the video and subscribe to the channel, you're automatically entered in our giveaway for a chance to win a PS5, an Xbox Series X, some Marvel Legends items, or some DC items as well. The winner gets to pick one item, and we pick a winner at the end of each month. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter as well, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.